Welcome back to the Darius Gant Show. I'm your host, Darius Gant, as well as the CEO and founder of Tesoro.ai, where we help innovative founders and executives build AI solutions and AI teams. On this podcast, we focus on cutting-edge technology, specifically artificial intelligence, by getting up close and personal with the innovative AI founders and executives who are building out these solutions. We learn exactly how artificial intelligence in the real world is solving real-world problems. Additionally, we learn how these innovators are taking steps in their journey, and we learn what steps these visionaries are taking to make it all happen. In this episode, we sit with Elango Thevar, who is the founder and CEO of Neer.ai. Neer is a company based out of St. Louis, applying data science and machine learning to the water management industry. With 15 years of experience in hydrology and hydraulic management, Elango is a great example of an industry practitioner, a subject matter expert who's figured out how AI can solve a significant problem in an industry he has a lot of expertise. Elango is going to tell us more about his life's journey, why water management has been so important to his life considering all the waste that we don't even realize. We'll also learn a bit more about how he's thinking about constructing his own team. If you or your team is on the path to building an AI solution, make sure you check out Tesoro.ai. We've assembled the leading experts and talent in data science and machine learning. So, whether it's AI strategy, data labeling, AI-based software development, or staff augmentation, we've got a strong team here that has your back. Make sure you head over to www.tesoroai.com. All right, without further ado, let's hop into the show and hear from Elango. Elango, thanks for joining us. I appreciate you taking some time to chat with us today.
Hey, Darius. Yeah, it's a pleasure to join this podcast. Absolutely.
Awesome. So I want to hear more about your background. I think from what I read before, 15 plus years in hydrology, you're also a certified professional engineer and floodplain manager. Just in thinking in the space you're in water management, I could take a guess at what all of that means, but can you kind of bring it home for us and break it down in layman's terms?
Yeah, absolutely. I can even start way back, how I started into water industry. So kind of gives you perspective what I built my entire career on. So I grew up in a very, very small town in India, and it was less than 1,000 people. So there is no running water. That's how we grew up. Because you have to go and fetch the water from the community well and keep it for 2 or 3 days for cooking and cleaning. That's how I started. This is obviously like 1990s, that time. I fast forward in 2002, I had an opportunity to come to the United States for higher studies. And I came here went to Oklahoma State in Stillwater, Oklahoma. It's a great school. And I went to study my master's in environmental engineering, which focuses on water, sewer, and stormwater. Not a very, you mentioned sexy thing. It's not a very, it's very necessary work when you were studying that. And then after I graduated, I worked for a small company in Stillwater that my responsibility is to go to all this water and wastewater treatment plants in Oklahoma and take the samples and then come back to the lab and then analyze it for what's in the water and then report back to EPA for, regulatory, compliance. That's how I started in the water industry in 2005. And I worked there for 8 months, and then I came to Kansas City, Missouri, which is I'm based out right now. I worked for a bigger consulting firm in Kansas City for the last 15 years. My responsibility is to build models for the different cities for the water. If you can think in the United States, at least, everything is a centralized system. So you can think underneath the ground, there's a series of pipes connected. There is a city or a water utility. They take the water from the river or groundwater, they treat it clean, and then they bring it home 24/7 to the houses. And same cycle, you flush the toilet, it just goes back to your sewer or wastewater treatment plant, and they treat it, and then they put it back into the system, right? So as an engineer, as a civil engineering background, your responsibility is to help the communities to see what is underneath the ground and help them make the very smart decision about their infrastructure planning and what is happening. Are they actually maximizing the existing infrastructure capacity? That's how my life started. Professional engineering means you have to take the test. You have to spend like a few years in the industry. So you can actually design something. You could put your own stamp that you're competent enough to design and help design some of the critical infrastructure. And that's what the professional engineering means. The certified floodplain manager is as part of the water ecosystem. It's very dynamic, right? I mean, you get the water, you get the rain, you capture the water, and you store it appropriately and at certain locations so that it doesn't flood, and make sure that nobody, life is not lost or property is not lost. That's what the floodplain is. So you study the dynamics of the water flow, understand how the water flows within the river and groundwater. So again, it's a standardized exam. You take it, you pass it, and then you become a certified floodplain manager. So that's kind of the very high level, overview of civil engineers who focuses on water industry. They do day to day. They help the communities to make an efficient decision, or they design some new pipes, put a new pipe. The city is expanding. They put a new pipe, or some pipe is broken. You have to replace it as emergency. So they have to replace that stuff. So that's kind of my responsibility as a civil engineer. And that's how I started.
Yeah, I was really curious about that, because when I think of things like that, like infrastructure, right? A city generally already has that. So what are the things that happen where someone like yourself would have to say, okay, well, let me put my brain towards solving whatever issue? And it sounds like some of those things could be, maybe there's development. They're creating a new, subdivision, or new housing is going up. So you have to make sure the infrastructure and the water flows is moving in that direction properly. But then you also have nature comes into play, and you have to make sure that the changes that nature creates are also leading to the efficient use of water, and that everyone is getting clean water. Mm-hmm. Am I capturing that correctly?
Yes. The water, it's one of those things that you live in a city, you kind of feel that it's somebody's bringing you this water and clean it. You don't appreciate that much what is happening on the background, right? Because it's there. It's always there, at least in the United States, right? It's like a magic. So you turn on, it's always there. Not every place is like that, but at least in the United States. Let's stick with the United States market here. But the thing is, water kind of like, even though it looks you're in the city, but it's kind of behaves in a certain way. We have the system called watershed, which is kind of an area that the entire rainfall falls into that land and then goes towards the common location, which is a river or ocean. Everything is drains toward the ocean anyway, but we kind of split this into smaller chunks of area where all the water falls into the land, goes to that location. So if I'm the city within the watershed, I have to protect the water quality. I have to make sure there is no flood, make sure I have enough water for my communities the next 25, 30, 50 years, because as a city or a utility, I am thinking for the next 50 years, right? Because I'm not thinking today, because like you said, everything is changing, population is changing and you're expanding the city. So land use is also changing, and the climate, the rainfall patterns and the temperatures, that is also changing. So it's a very dynamic system. So as an engineer, you have to think all this stuff to plan for the next 50 years. Make sure that the population or the citizens they serve gets the high quality water in uninterrupted with the very minimal cost. From a city perspective, they wanted to spend very lowest amount of money possible, but at the same time, they wanted to meet the very high level of service for their citizens. That's the goal. That's the ultimate goal of any utilities in the United States or anywhere else. They just wanted to provide service at the lowest cost at a very high level of service. That's the ultimate goal.
And when you had the idea for Neer, was there a problem or a specific challenge that you saw where you're thinking, look, I could create a product that would change the game or that could solve this problem better than the existing solution?
Yeah, it's not like I would just walk up, I wanted to do this. I think like early 2019, I was working full time at that time. I was totally fell in love with the blockchain technology. I mean, the open source blockchain, like everybody else, I was excited about Bitcoin and Ethereum and how the decentralized network behaves. I wanted to create an open source, framework for the water industry, because as a water user, you are actually competing for the resources. As a city, I am also taking the water. And my agriculture community, as a farmer, I'm also taking the water. As a private industry, I am also taking the water, but there is only a finite amount of resources. There is no database that actually calculates who is taking how much water. My concept was to create an open source framework for the water industry. So I was tinkering with the blockchain technology in my free time on the weekends and create an open source framework. And late 2019, I gave up the idea. What I realized was it's a lot of work. I cannot do it by myself. And you need an army of people. We're thinking about like Ethereum has 9 different teams. They are working on Ethereum 2 protocol. I don't know if you follow the blockchain space, but it's a really big effort. I'm thinking about changing the way that people track water in the global scale. So I just naively wanted to do something in the blockchain space, and then it's not going to work. We are way ahead of the time. The industry is pretty old, and nobody's going to share the information like the Ethereum protocol or any other protocol. So I just gave up the idea. I sketched the idea, and then like a February or March this year, one of the defining moment of my life, I would say, is I read a book called Troubled Water, which is what's wrong with what we drink. This is completely focuses on American water system. They talk about the challenges that the water utilities are facing today. And that book actually changed my life, because one of the things that in the book, it mentioned that there's 52,000 drinking water utilities in the United States, 52,000. If you're not a water engineer, or it doesn't matter, 52,000 for 330 million people, it's a lot. It's enormous. So just to give you a simple example, we have only 435 congressmen to represent 330 million people. But we have 52,000, water utilities to provide. Essentially we have every 7,000 people, we have one utility, drinking water utility, right? That's a lot of utility. And the problems they face, every 2 minutes, there is a water main break. There is a lot of leaky pipes. There's so many different challenges. So, and it just kind of I was like, why nobody actually is creating a solution to answer this problem?
Do you mean like even just identifying and tracking when you have these types of issues, or are you also extending that to resolution of that issue?
Yeah, it's even like they just gave up. They don't, the 52,000 water utilities, they can't figure out where the next leak is going to be, or exactly where the next leaks are. They don't know where the pipe is going to break. They have, like I said, every 2 minutes there is a water main break, which is, the industry standard is only 15 water main break every 100 miles of system, but they may have like a 40 and 50 water main break every 100 miles of pipe. So that's a lot. And then they are losing 30% of the water they produce, 30%. So I'm making 100 gallons and bringing it to the houses, and 30 gallons is lost completely. That's the monetary value that these communities put some energy and cost to clean the water, and they had no idea where the water is leaking. Think about that, right? So there is a water main break every 2 minutes. There is 30% of the water they produce in the United States. In the other parts of the world, it's 50 or even 60% of the water they produce. And the sewer side, there is so much rain gets into the sewer side. So the problem is enormous, right? I mean, they just gave up. They can't figure it out. There is no solution available. That was the time I decided to, leave my job and focus full time. I have no idea what I'm going to do, but I'm going to solve the smaller and medium. 95% of the communities, though 52,000 are smaller to medium-sized communities, less than 50,000 population, and they are so fragmented. So April this year, I started Neer, and started building the platform. And I know that there's a huge value proposition I can bring into the smaller and medium-sized communities. And it works for bigger communities too, but I think the people who desperately need help is the people that less than 50,000. Right. Those 50,000 water utilities there, they have no idea where the next water main break is going to be. They have no idea when they have to replace the next pipe, which order they go there. They have 100 pipes. How they go after and replace which pipes should be replacing first, the second and third and fourth. So that kind of a framework is missing entirely in this industry. So April, I jumped into the full time and focusing on building Neer, and it's been, I don't know, I forget the time. It feels like about 5 years now, but it's been only this year, since April. But I have a great team. People who believe in what I see as a vision for the water industry, not only for the United States, but the entire global industry can change. It is a point in time that we have to take it very seriously to bring an affordable solution to the global communities. It's so embarrassing to be a water engineer, and then you look back, there is no tools available. You have to go buy a data scientist for $50,000 or $100,000 to do this, where the next leak is going to be, or where all this stuff. So my goal is to break all these rules and bring an affordable solution to every community and make it affordable solution. That's kind of my vision. So.
Now, is this a software only solution? Are you providing, are you placing sensors somewhere along these pipelines? What is the actual product that you've come up with?
It's purely a software play, and we go and talk to the clients, like a utility by utility. We go to the clients and tell them, hey, it doesn't matter what kind of data you have, provide all the data you have, and then we can do the machine learning and we can extract intelligence from the data you already have. Typically, the system that we are talking about, they are not well documented how many failures they had in the last 3-5 years. There may be one person documenting in a handwriting or the PDF document, whatever. So we go to the utilities, we ask them all these questions. Where's your pipes are? When did you install the pipe? And what are the breaks you had happen in the last 5 years? Give me as much information as possible. We bring all this information into our platform. Okay. There is no hardware. If they do have any hardware on the field, if they are collecting data kind of a real time, we can connect with those sensors. So we can also pull that information into our platform. We kind of make it kind of a near real time and extract intelligence as much as possible to provide that intelligence back to them. And instantly we can improve their understanding of their system. Right. And which one is highest risky pipes is going to fail in the next 6 months. Go on and fix those before you come to the next pipe. So we can predict at a very high accuracy of the entire risk, purely based on the data we collect from the city. So.
Yeah, interesting point you're making here about the data as well, right? And I'm curious what your experience has been actually collecting that data from the cities, right? In my mind, they're not the latest tech company. They're not as educated about how to actually store data, how to label data, things of that nature. So are there some challenges you've run into with some of the cities, and what are some of kind of the unique situations that you've had to deal with as you look at kind of analyzing and making predictions based on the data?
Believe me or not, I mean, you're in the artificial intelligence space. So the data is the key here, right? The data, we spend more time cleaning up the data and normalizing the data than actually predicting the risk. So most of the time, especially the smaller communities, they do not have a well documented data. They are missing so much information. They're even missing the pipe material. They're even missing the pipe size. So 20 to 30% of the data is missing. So what we found from the data we collected, we can be able to populate that missing information using kind of unsupervised learning based on the data set we collect. We cluster the neighborhoods. We use a lot of technology, most modern tools. And then the first step we do is we give them the complete data set.
Okay.
Like, hey, this is what this pipe material would have been. Like this is the best engineering judgment based on the data you provide. And also we can back calculate some of the material, and based on when the building is constructed near to that location of the pipe. So we kind of back calculate a lot of, we have like a micro machine learning algorithm to populate missing information, okay, to come up with the full data set before you even do with anything with the data. And when we give the full data set back to the client, they are extremely happy because now they have a full data set and they can validate that as they go into the field, not necessarily immediately, but every year they are collecting a few information. And once they keep collecting the information, now they have a framework to update the information that's been missing for a long time, and they continue to get better over time.
Now, are you having to kind of train them, educate them on how to properly connect or collect data so that, look, you go from getting 60% of the data is usable to now, okay, when you send us data, 90%, 100% of the data is usable?
Oh yeah, I mean, our existing clients, they're extremely happy to, once you give them a database, like, okay, these are the information you should be collecting. They didn't even know they should be collecting that data. So
right.
One of the clear example is like, if somebody construct a new pipe, you can also rate the construction, how they did it. You could, like a construction performance index. You can score if a new neighborhood design, and then whoever the construction company is designing a pipe, putting the pipe into the ground, you can score them based on after they construct it. Like that score can influence when the pipe is going to fail into the future. Mm-hmm. So that kind of information is critical as we move along to the next digital water sector, that you have to capture as much as information as possible. So when one guy retires or goes from a different city to city, that information is already there in a centralized database. They can use it to extract intelligence from there.
Yeah, the conversation that we have a lot of times with folks that we work with is what we do with the data is going to be more important than the algorithm, right? Because getting the data right, the data is just not going to change and is going to give you a basis for all the predictions in the future. The algorithm is going to change years from now. So that getting that data piece right is the most important and value-added piece. What I'm curious, as a startup, right? You guys are fresh to the market. I'm curious how you kind of got off the ground with an ML solution, right? So as you've got these models that are making predictions, how did you approach this? I mean, you get the data from clients, but are you training? I don't want to say, are you creating your own ML algorithms? Are you using existing algorithms? How did you guys think about that element of being an AI startup?
The key thing is, we are actually training the data set. We are creating our own machine learning models. That's kind of our IP is. So we go to the city and we have a mixed bag of larger clients who has a tremendous amount of data, really good data set. And then we also have a smaller community that they don't have only 60% of the data. A lot of data is missing. So really good system who has 90 to 95% of the data. We can train the data set. We can easily create a machine learning algorithm using, we kind of know that's all validated on the field and verified that score. So we can train the data set from the data we collect. We can validate some of the data set, and then we can build our machine learning algorithm from that, and then continue to optimize it as we get more data and create value for other clients as well. So that's kind of when we started with it, we worked with one of the smaller community, and then we, like I said, it's a lot of data cleaning we did to get to a point that we can even train the data set, because they have a lot of missing information. So we worked with the community for like 4 or 5 months to clean the data first, and then we can provide value to them. Hey, we can actually predict this at 92% confidence level, that this is a huge one. So you don't need to send somebody to verify what is this information. And then we fortunately be working with another couple larger clients as a pilot study, because they have a lot of missing information. So we worked with the community for like 4 or 5 months to clean the data first, and then we can provide value to them. Hey, we can actually predict this at 92% confidence level, that this is a huge one. So you don't need to send somebody to verify what is this information. And then we fortunately be working with another couple larger clients as a pilot study, and they are actually providing the information. We are working with some other communities in California. So we are getting a bunch of good data now, so we can actually optimize our ML algorithm to get to the point that we can make a huge impact on the water sector. It doesn't matter where you live, even like where you live in a bigger city, Columbia, we can also use that intelligence to even design a perfect system.
Right.
Like what kind of material you should be using, and what kind of soil type, all kind of cool stuff that we can provide the AI to the communities that's been lagging in the industry for a long time.
Yeah, and I think it's an awesome use case for the predictions you're making. So I would love to hear more about, you have this idea or this insight into the water, I'm going to call it the water industry. I'm probably butchering, but your co-founder, how did that relationship happen? Did they have that same level of experience in where did that relationship initiate?
We went to school together in Oklahoma State. I met him like 18 years ago. We've been constantly in touch, but we never thought we will work together as a team. So when I left in April, that was kind of a fresh idea. It was not tested. I went to a community, hey, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this for free. If you think it's valuable, you can pay me later, right? And then that guy bought in, and then I went and talked to my other friend. We started with the same degree, but he kind of went to IT field, and he still wasn't sure. I able to convince him.
You had at least a pilot going on, right? Like you had one potential customer on board, right?
Yeah, we have a pilot customer, a small city in Missouri. That's how I started in April, May. And I think I lured him around, I would say like, most recently, he wants to help me like a part-time in May and June. But and then I told him, hey, we got into an accelerator program, like one called Generator and also called Elemental. That kind of gives me some small capital for us to, support ourselves full time. So I lured him in, and then I also hired, a couple of young engineers, one data scientist and one full stack engineer to help achieve my vision. The platform is still evolving day by day, because now we are getting to the point, it's the MVP, it works. Now you can add a lot of functionalities. You can design your platform the way that you wanted to design. You have time, you have customers now, people are using your platform, and we can actually leverage all those stuff. So it is a slow grind for the first 5-6 months. We had one client pilot node, not a paying, and only successful they will pay us, and extremely happy with the results. And then we converted into a paying customers right away. And then now we are getting organic traffic from the rest of the parts of the United States to integrate our platform into their platform and provide value to the existing clients, or even some firms they wanted to scale our model to other parts of the world.
Now, what was it like going out and acquiring those initial customers? Because one of the things I think is interesting, depending on kind of where you are and who you're selling to, your sales cycle is going to be different. The conversation is going to be different. If I'm B2C, a sale could happen in a day. Small business, a little longer. Enterprise, a lot longer. Government, Never. No. But like, obviously, to me, I think that you probably had some sort of advantage being kind of the subject matter expert in the space and who had what pain point. But what was it like getting those first few clients and presenting them with a solution that would be leveraging artificial intelligence? Was that something that sparked their curiosity, or is this like, look, no, just solve the problem. I don't really even care about this AI thing.
Yeah. It's tough. I mean, like you're saying, in the government, selling to the government is very, very tough. But fortunately, it worked for the first client. Is like I said, I'm going to shout out director of public works. I pitched, you don't need to pay anything, and he believed in the vision, and he said, okay, let's do this. And then we collected the data, and then we trained the data, and then once we provide the value to them, and then now we have a case study to show to other people that this works, right? And then we want to, talk to the bigger client, and then they also still not sure this is going to work or not, but they still gave us a pilot study, another kind of a case study basis. So we are training the data set now to provide value to them. And then we are talking, this works because the market is so fragmented. And so we are training the data set now to provide value to them. And then we are talking, this works because the market is so fragmented, and largest utilities in California networks to save their operational efficiency. It's there, but it happens only like a very, very large utilities, very customized solutions. I know the system works from what's happening in the industry, or how machine learning can useful tool to predict some of the challenges the water industry has. So it's not about whether it's going to work or not. I honestly believe 100% that this is going to work, but the thing is to provide that value to the client that you can optimize, your operations, your investment decisions based on this from a data analysis perspective. So once we have two different case studies, we still a grind. We have to go to some other utilities that never knew what is artificial intelligence or what is machine learning is, right? So you're trying to prove the value, the experience. Even the bigger clients, they are still doubtful. They've been using all these legacy systems for so long that they don't even know what the modern tools look like. They don't want to change because they've been using this legacy tool for so long time. They are fearful. They don't want to change it, but they are still on the fence. So there are some people, they're ready to take that risk to the pilot study and do this. But I think at the end of the day, our vision for the industry is, if the technology tools is going to work only for a bigger utilities or bigger cities, in my opinion, that's not the defining moment. We need to bring the technology tools to everybody that works for everyone. That's what we are after, right? So we're not worried about bigger utilities. You can go hire the best data scientists that you can be. But for us, those 51,800 utilities is the one that we are going after. And can we bring value to them? The answer is yes. And can we make a tremendous impact in the water industry by actually a very easy to use the tool? They can use it day to day to plan their infrastructure and more efficiently using some of the modern tools. I think it's going to be a tremendous benefit. I think it's a slow grind, but I think people will believe in. Once they believe in, once they sort of see the results, how other communities are leveraging these tools, and they will onboard. It's just a matter of time, in my opinion.
Right.
So
the thing I like about what you guys are doing is, one, you can actually put some results on the table pretty rapidly, right? After that POC. The other side is it's kind of a double-edged sword, right? Where they're slow to move off legacy systems, but then eventually you become that system. And this is what I saw, right? As a VC, folks who are selling into infrastructure, organizations of that nature, right? They're not just switching vendors every single day. So you got a more loyal customer. One other thing, you guys are based in Missouri, Kansas City. Have you yourself seen kind of any major differences between maybe some folks who may decide to start in Silicon Valley or maybe even New York City? What might be the pros and cons that you've seen?
There's a couple companies like in this space. There's a startup, I think in starting it in California or Silicon Valley or East Coast, New York City, or Boston or Chicago. Main thing is access to capital. You can actually raise money really quickly. And we are in the Midwest, like Kansas City. So raising money was really, really difficult to go to market and prove that value proposition to your clients. That was the hardest part, but I think we already broke the barrier to getting into this elemental program in Hawaii. It's one of the most, privileged, organization for young startups, for water startups and water, energy, and food as circular economy. So there's 800 applications, and they selected only like 19 companies, and Neer is one of them. So there's a great validation for us, right? So raising money is not going to be a problem for us, going forward. But I think we broke that from here, from Kansas City. I think pandemics kind of helped in a way, us, that everything moving to the Zoom and virtual calls, so you can talk to any VCs you want.
Yes.
And I think people also start realizing, you probably know this, you're in the VC background, so there's a lot of value in Midwestern startups. It's not high value like Silicon Valley or East Coast, or valuation is not that crazy expensive, and this market is untapped. I hate to give the secret out, but there is a lot of clients here. There's a huge opportunity for us. I mean, throughout the United States, but I believe it's a hard sell to get into the clients. But once they believe in the vision, I think it's a great opportunity in front of us. And we want it to be the artificial intelligence platform for the water industry in the Midwest. That's kind of our go-to-market strategy right now.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, me being a Midwest guy, I love to see cutting edge technologies, startups coming out of that space. And yeah, when I was a VC, a lot of times it's like, well, let's see what else is in other areas of the US, because valuation is better, but the mindset, probably because it's harder to raise capital, you're like, I gotta make sure I'm making the best decision possible for every dollar I spend, right?
Yeah.
So the mindset was a little bit different, which was also interesting. Before we go here, I want to be conscious of time, but before we go, I got a couple quick fire questions for you. What are your maybe one or two favorite tech tools?
Tech tools. Man, that's a hard question. We've been trying so much. I mean, Slack is maybe the
Slack's
tool
a good
that we use all the time, and we've been using a lot of AWS since April when we started. We haven't explored Google or Microsoft tools yet, but I think AWS, especially the SageMaker with the machine learning and everything, it's a pretty good tech tool for us. Gusto is another one. I love Gusto, man.
Is that the payroll tool?
Yeah. I love it. I mean, like, Gusto is a great tool.
My buddy has an accounting business, and he raves about. He's like, look, if I had a CPA. I was a CPA back in the days. Like, look, if you ever do it, get Gusto, right? It's gonna make your life a lot easier.
Yeah. So if I have to pick one, I would do Gusto. That make my life much easier. But we use all the standard tools that you probably already aware of. But Gusto is the top one for sure.
Okay, awesome. And last question: who is one person, maybe in AI or in business in general, that inspires you, and why?
If I have to, pick one, I have to pick the Seth Siegel, the Troubled Water, the author who wrote the book. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. I would have been working for an engineer the rest of my life. And I think that kind of changed if I have to pick two, I pick Seth Siegel and Bill Gates. Bill Gates is because he's working on the water industry for a long time. Okay. He's pouring millions and millions of dollars to make it not from the centralized system to, you can do a poop to clean water. He's doing a lot of stuff in the water, and he's pouring all this hard-earned money into water tech and healthcare and all this stuff. So Seth Siegel and Bill Gates, maybe not in the same different order, but they are all the same. The top two guys that I look up to, and what they are doing in the water industry, and what they see, how they see water as the critical, important element, the make it civilization possible. That we need to care about the water quality. We need to care about the infrastructure. We need to make sure that we can actually provide all the services at the very lowest cost possible, at the same time without compromising the quality. So yeah, those are the two people, man. I mean, that inspire every day I get up. I just want to do something. It's whether it's a success or not, I don't care. But if I can make a difference in one community, that's all that matters.
Yeah, so. No, I think that's awesome. And one thing for me that I love speaking with folks who are using AI to improve the quality of human life. And obviously water is so fundamental. you guys are doing some great work there. So I'll definitely be keeping an eye on what's up next and how you guys, congrats on winning the Arch grant. So
yeah, I have to just quickly, we have to huge shout out to Arch grants, and they are giving like a $50,000 grant money, non-diluted. It's not equity, it's a grant money. So what we are doing with that money is we are selecting 10 communities in Missouri, and we are going to provide free asset management, predictive asset management services to smaller communities, less than 5,000 population. So it's one of those things that we're not going to take any money from Arch grants. We're just providing directly to the community, and especially smaller communities, less than 5,000 populations. Our team is extremely excited about this stuff, that we can make a really good positive impact on these 10 communities. For 1 year, no string attached. We provide all the intelligence, and they can walk away if they don't like us. So yeah, it's one of the things we love to do. So yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I love it. And then lastly, where can we find you to learn more?
Yeah, it says Neer.ai. It's our website, and they have a contact form there. They can fill it out. We have a LinkedIn, Twitter, and all the social media you can imagine. So they can reach out to me, LinkedIn, and Elango Thevar is the handle for LinkedIn as well. And yeah, we are very responsive. And if you want to know more about us, what we do, or connect us to your cities, if you think they can benefit from the tools like Neer, we love to have a conversation.
Awesome. And we'll definitely get those links up on the website, so it's easy for folks to find you. All right. Thanks, Elango. Appreciate the time today, and we look forward to keeping up to date with your progress.
Absolutely, Darius. This is so much fun. I think you got a lot out of me, like early on from my career. So this is a great conversation. Thank you so much.